Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Eric's Inferno, a Rescue 4 novel by Tiffany Patterson, narrated by Alexander Cendese and Zuzu Robinson. Prologue. Eric. "You fucking dumbass!" I berated myself while lying under the pile of rubble that had once been the second-floor roof of the factory building we'd entered. "Harvard, can you hear us? Harvard, call out!" I heard the anxious voices of the guys of my squad but couldn't respond. They sounded so far away, and I was struggling to breathe. I attempted to push what I believed to be slabs of concrete off of me, but they barely budged, and it made the pain in my abdomen so much worse. "Fuck!" I yelled out in my head when another wave of white-hot pain radiated through my stomach, up my chest and down my legs. I did my best not to tense up, knowing that it'd only make the pain worse. Instead, I did the dumbest thing I could do. I reached up with my one free arm and removed my helmet and face mask. Tossing the cracked face mask down, I flipped my dented helmet upside down to see the picture I taped inside it months ago. In spite of the waves of agony emanating through my body, my lips spread into a smile, causing even more pain. But I didn't care. I needed to rest my eyes on her. Angela, my angel. The woman I kissed just a few hours ago before rushing out the door to make it to the firehouse on time for my shift. I reached up to my mouth and bit down on my glove, pulling my hand free from it so I could better grab the picture. Plucking it from my helmet, I held the image closer to my face, only able to see clearly out of one eye. But I didn't need to see to remember her beautiful face. Pecan brown skin and shortly cropped dark brown curly hair with streaks of purple throughout. Big doe-like tawny eyes that sparkled when she smiled, just as she was in this picture. A smile that spread across her face when she noticed me holding up my phone as she danced behind the bar serving drinks. That smile was just for me, and I captured it to carry with me always. This was the woman who held my heart, the woman I was supposed to marry in a few short months, the woman I had lied to. On our fourth date, I told her I would always be safe working at Rescue 4. Told her we were the best of the best, and if anything were to happen to me, those guys were coming in after me. I meant it when I said it. What I hadn't told her was that there were no guarantees. Even the best of the best couldn't prevent roofs from collapsing or fires from surging. We tried. God knows we did everything in our power to try. But in the end, we weren't the ones running the show. I pulled the image to my chest as the sounds of the guys seemed to be drifting away. Either they were moving farther away or I was falling into unconsciousness. Likely it was the latter. My head felt woozy, but I kept the image of my smiling angel close to my heart. I let out a moan when I thought about the fire department chief showing up on Angela's doorstep, telling her that I died. No, they wouldn't go to her doorstep. It was Tuesday, and at this time of day she'd be at the bar, prepping to open. Maybe they'd send the captain or Sean. I knew Sean would want to be the one to tell his sister the news. And my parents, I wondered who would tell them. After 7 years, they were just starting to come around to accepting my career, and here I was dying because of it. I hurt for them too. But I didn't have any regrets. No, that was a lie. I had one regret. I told Angela I wouldn't get her pregnant until we were officially married. That was the dumbest shit I ever did. Now she wouldn't even have a child to remember me by. Just an engagement ring and 6 months of memories. "I'm sorry, Angel," I barely whispered, right before my eyes closed one last time. Chapter 1. Eric. Stepping out of my red Ford Escape into the parking lot of my firehouse, I looked up and did the same thing I did every time I parked in the lot for my shift. My eyes scanned over the brick fire station, and I read the lettering that spelled out Rescue 4 on top of the building in big gold letters. A usual warm, tingling feeling expanded in my chest. The sense of achievement I've felt over the last 7 years flooded my body. More than half a decade on the job, and this feeling never went away. Instead of moving toward the door, I turned and went in the opposite direction, to the Starbucks across the street. My second ritual of my morning shifts was heading to get coffee. I made my way to the street, checking for cars, and thanks to my long legs, within a few steps I was completely across. I held the door open for a female patron who was just coming out. Even with the 2 full cup holders in her hands, she eyed me up and down. Her pink-tinted lips spread into a seductive smile. I returned her stare with a smile of my own. After 7 years, it still amused me how women responded to a man in uniform. Plus, I'm not too bad on the eyes, if I do say so myself.
"Thank you,"
she said airily. No thanks needed. I winked and entered the door after she passed, pausing to get a view of her backside. When I finally stepped across the threshold, I could see her continue to eye me through the window. I took one last glance before heading to the counter to give my order.
"Oh, thank you, Mr. Fireman, sir,"
I heard a mock-girly voice in my right ear behind me. My lips turned downward. "Fuck off, Don. Ladies do love a man in uniform." Ha ha, he laughed. I turned to face him to do our usual handshake. Don stood just a hair short of my 6'2" height. He, like me, was coming in to start a 12-hour shift. We were on schedule from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. that day. "You would know," I responded to his earlier comment. "You're the consummate playboy." "Consummate? Here you go using all those fancy words, Harvard." Harvard. That was my nickname around the fire station. In the beginning, it irritated the hell out of me, but the more I let the guys know it bothered me, the more they used it. Finally, I let it drop, and now, 7 years in, I accepted it. "If you say so. What are you drinking? Coffee's on me this morning." "Just a regular brew. You know I don't like all that fancy shit. The only reason I'm here is 'cause Rookie 2's making the coffee this morning, and I swear if I have to drink his slop again, I might light him on fire myself," Don grunted. "Easy, Don. It's your job to investigate fires, not set them." I ordered our venti-sized cups of regular coffee.
"Would you like those iced?"
the barista asked. "No thanks." I could just imagine the type of ragging Don and I would get walking into the firehouse with iced coffee. No, thank you. After a few minutes of Don and I talking about sports, our drinks were ready. We each grabbed them and headed out the door to start our day. Once we got to the parking lot, we stopped. He clapped me on the back. "It never gets old, does it?" "Not for a second." We stood for another heartbeat, and then Don followed me to the door into our fire station, more like our second home. "Harvard!" one of the younger guys called. "We thought you forgot about us," he teased. Looking up at the clock on the wall, I noted it was 5 after 9. Even if I was 5 minutes early, I was considered late. I overslept this morning thanks to a late night with a female companion, causing me to run behind my usual 8:45 arrival. "Harvard here was making googly eyes at a pretty little thing in Starbucks," Don interjected, tousling my hair. "Fuck you, Don." I smacked his hand away. "If it weren't for your iced coffee, I would have been on time," I teased right back. That started a round of laughter from the 4 or 5 guys who stood around. "Donnie drinks iced coffee now? Do you need us to put the toilet seat down so you can sit while you piss too?" Corey yelled out, setting off another round of belly laughs. "Corey, the next time you call me Donnie, you're going to be walking away with a black eye," Don threatened. He hated the name Donnie, and everyone knew it. Unlike me, though, he never got used to it and threatened anyone who dared call him that. The younger guys wouldn't dare, but Corey, Don, and I came up together. All 3 of us went through training at the fire academy together. I joined Rescue 4 right out of the academy. Don was assigned to another firehouse and joined Rescue 4 5 years ago, while Corey came a year after that. "Shh, imagine that," Corey returned, sounding unfazed. "All right, let's get this over with," I began, grabbing the clipboard to make sure everyone who was leaving was signed out, while Don, Corey, and I signed in for our shifts. Ordinarily, this was supposed to be the job of the lieutenant, but Rescue 4 had only one lieutenant for close to 2 years now, and he wasn't on this shift. We didn't even have a captain. That left me the unofficial lieutenant due to my seniority. Once the overnight shift left, Don, Corey, myself, and a few other men filed into the kitchen. "Ack, this tastes like something my dog threw up." Tommy's face was twisted up in disgust as he poured the contents of the coffee pot down the sink drain. Don looked at me. "Thanks for the coffee," he said, holding up the Starbucks cup. "Somebody needs to teach that fucking rookie how to make a damn pot of coffee." "Who wants grub?" Corey called out. An array of me's and fuck yeses echoed around the room. Corey began pulling out packages of eggs, bacon, and bread out of the fridge. For the morning shift, we kept a well-stocked fridge. One of our traditions was cooking breakfast at the station, if time permitted, of course. Within 30 minutes, we were all sitting around the table, full plates in front of us. One of the rookies talked about hearing about a firefighter being injured the other night in a fire. Don looked at me. I gave him a nod, and he slapped the rookie upside the back of his head. "What the fuck?" the rookie yelled. "We never talk about an injured firefighter around the table," Corey commented, not even lifting his gaze from his plate. "It's bad luck," I finished, shoveling another forkful of food into my mouth. Firefighters, much like baseball players, were a superstitious lot. You can talk about a lot of shit at this kitchen table, such as rescues and sexual exploits, or some of the guys talked about their kids and wives. But there were two things we never discussed: the death of a fellow firefighter and the injury of one. Not at the table. I glanced up from the table at the rookie who was now rubbing the back of his head, miffed. He'll learn. We all did. "You know Carter's supposed to come back soon?" I paused, peering at Don, whose voice had taken on a serious tone. He was staring directly at me. "You spoke with him?" "No, heard it through the grapevine." "Corey, you?" Corey looked between Don and I and shrugged. "Nah." I remained silent, opting to place my breakfast dishes in the sink. "Hey, rookie," I called. "For that fuck-up at the table, you're on dish duty this shift. Pete, Jacob, and Vince, you three are scrubbing down the truck today. The rest of us are cleaning the equipment, capiche?" "Last time I checked, you were Korean, not Italian," Don's smartass remarked. "My mother's a professor of linguistics. I learned a word or two in other languages." "No wonder they call you Harvard," I heard the rookie at the sink mumble. "You can call me sir, capiche?" I said to him, crowding his space. "Capiche." Only then did I back off. "Don't worry, rookie. One day it'll be your turn to pay it forward," Don reassured the rookie, smacking him with the dish towel. I chuckled as I left the kitchen and moved to the equipment room where all our gear was stored. Rookies always got the shittiest jobs and the most hazing in the fire station. It was part of their birthing process. We all went through it. If you came out the other side, you could consider yourself a real firefighter. But only if you made it through the fire. "Come on, fucking move!" Corey yelled out the window as he tugged on the lever that sounded the truck's horn. His dark skin was already glistening with sweat. I felt the sweat running down my back, but I was more focused on maneuvering this truck down a one-way street to make it to our destination. We were on our third call of the day, and the yells through the walkie-talkie were saying a firefighter was trapped on a roof. "We better get there before Rescue 2!" Corey shouted from the passenger seat. "Let's go!" I yelled, pressing on the horn at a car moving too slowly in front of us. I rounded the corner onto the street where the burning building stood. "Fuck!" Corey and I yelled at the same time when we saw the fire truck for Rescue 2 already on the scene. Parking a little ways down the road, in front of a fire hydrant, I threw open the door and the five of us piled out of the truck, grabbing helmets and gear as we went. "Where do you need us?" I asked the captain of Rescue 2. "We need an additional line run into the ground floor. I got a man on the roof." Peering up at the roof of the 4-story building, I saw the red brim of a fireman's helmet. "Corey, you and the rookie run a line into the ground level. Kill anything that looks hot. You got me?" "Copy," Corey returned. "Let's go, rookie." I watched Corey run around to the back of the truck to grab the hose. "Anyone else inside?" I asked the captain. He shook his head. "We pulled out 3 before the second floor caved in. Our guy had to go up to the roof." "Ladder's not high enough," one of the Rescue 2 squad called out. "Shit!" the captain yelled. "I'm on it," I returned before he could finish the question. I ran back to the truck, yelling to Don that I needed to move closer to pull up our ladder. Carefully but quickly, I inched the truck as close to the building as possible, and then pressed the button to send up the ladder that rested on top of the truck. I heard the telltale beeps alerting me that the ladder had released. Exiting the truck, I climbed up on top to hold the ladder still for the man to get down, but within seconds I heard shrieks coming from overhead. Above me were 2 pairs of skinny limbs waving, and I realized the firefighter had 2 children with him, one of which was hanging dangerously close to the edge of the roof. I called for Don to watch my back. I didn't turn around to see if he came to assist. I knew he'd be in position just like I knew the back of my hand. I ran up the ladder as fast as my body allowed. Less than a minute later, the only thing that kept me suspended in the air against the brick building was the ladder.
"Help me!"
A young girl, probably about 10 years old, shrieked as I reached her. "I got you," I soothed, using one of my arms to grab her from the edge of the roof and the grip of the other firefighter. "I need you to hold on to my ladder. We're going to go down as quickly as possible, okay?"
"My brother!"
she yelled. Glancing over, I saw the little boy was cradled in the other firefighter's arms. "Your brother's coming down right behind us. We're all getting out of here." I held on to her with one hand. Keep your eyes up for me, okay? She was trembling with fear, and my biggest concern was that she'd see how far off the ground we were and would slip or lose her balance. That's it, nice and easy, you're doing great, I consoled as we made our way down the ladder. I glanced up to make sure the firefighter and the little boy were following. When I saw they were, I returned my attention to the girl. We're almost there, I stated until I felt my foot hit the top of the truck. When I stood on the truck, I picked the girl up and handed her off to Don, who then passed her over to the paramedic. Seconds later, I was past her younger brother, who, although frightened and crying, didn't appear harmed. Medic says they're going to be okay, Don came over a while later to tell me. The 3-story home held 3 apartments. We were able to enter the building once the flames were out and it had been cleared. From the looks of it, faulty wiring caused the fire. The 2 kids were home alone because their mother ran to the grocery store. Good job, Don patted me on the back. Right back at you. We bumped fists. After speaking with the captain for a few minutes, I returned to my truck to find my guys in a heated debate with the men of Rescue 2. Nah, fuck that, a bet is a bet, Steve, one of the guys from Rescue 2, yelled. Fuck, Steve had a point. Harvard, you believe this shit? We saved their asses and they're still trying to hold a bet over us, Corey said. First of fucking all, you didn't save shit, Steve spat. Second, we always knew the supposed tough guys of Rescue 4 were a bunch of pansies. Watch your goddamn mouth, Steven. We'll make good on the bet, I interjected. They may have won the bet, but there was no way I was about to let them talk shit about Rescue 4. Yeah, what he said, Don added. We can handle anything you throw at us. All right. Sean, another Rescue 2 man, stepped forward. We'll let you know what you have to do. When? I asked, folding my arms across my chest. Oh, we'll find you. We know where you reside. I gave Sean a look, but didn't say anything. I shrugged as if it were no big deal before telling the rookie with us to pack up the hose so we could leave. This scene wasn't our fire to handle all the paperwork on, so we didn't need to hang around any longer. I can't believe they beat us here, Corey said, slamming the passenger door. That had been the bet. Weeks ago, guys from Rescue 4 bet Rescue 2 that we could beat them to any fire, anytime, anywhere. And while I wasn't on shift at the time of the bet, it stood for all shifts. We lost this round, and now it was time for us to pay up. I knew the guys of Rescue 2 wouldn't let us live this down. I'm gonna need a beer after this shift, Corey commented. Copy that, I agreed.
Chapter 2. Angela. Heads up, Rescue 4 just walked in. I looked up from behind the bar just as they entered. Individually, these guys could stop traffic, but together they were enough to give a normally healthy woman a heart attack. The first to enter was Corey, with warm brown skin that held gold undertones. He stood at about 6 feet, and by the way the black t-shirt he wore clung to his body, you knew he was in the gym at least 5 days a week. Next to enter was Don, who was about an inch taller and just as muscular, with olive skin and dark hair with a scruffy beard. The first 2 were enough to make any girl swoon, but I felt the blood rush to my ears when the third and final Rescue 4 man came into my line of sight. The one they called Harvard, although his real name was Eric. He stood the tallest of the 3 with creamy tan skin and dark hair that looked smooth as silk thanks to his Asian heritage. I once overheard one of the guys say that he was Korean. With his chiseled jaw, full lips that were almost pouty, and dark hooded eyes, he screamed sex appeal. He looked like he held the secrets of the world behind those eyes. His mysteriousness was coupled with the fact that out of all the firemen who frequented the bar, he spoke the least. Firefighters were a loud, proud lot. I knew them well. My father had been one for more than 30 years, and my older brother was one of them. I grew up around them. But Eric had a steely calm to him, like he didn't have to announce who or what he was to the world. He knew who he was. A trail of goosebumps rose along my arms when those dark eyes circled the room, finally landing on me. I was behind the bar, far from the door, but it almost appeared as if his eyes darkened when they slowly scanned down my body. His facial expression remained neutral, and I forced myself to turn away, moving to help another customer. "What's up, sugar?" Corey greeted a few minutes later. I smiled. "How are you doing tonight, Corey?" Much better now that I've seen your beautiful face, he replied smoothly, perfect teeth appearing when he grinned. Did I mention how much these men flirted? All except one, at least. Talking like that is going to get you in trouble. Trouble's my middle name. The usual. Laughing, I pulled the rag out of the back pocket of my jeans to clean up a spill on the bar. Yep, make it 5. We're meeting 2 more from Rescue 4. I thought you guys were traveling a little light tonight. Us 3 just got off. Thanks, sugar. Corey winked once I handed him the first of the 3 Coronas with lime he requested. He sauntered over to pass off the beers, and again my eyes collided with Eric's, almost as if he'd been staring at me. A shiver ran through me when he took the proffered beer from Corey, his gaze still planted on me. His eyes narrowed, and I felt as if I were in the crosshairs of a predator. Instead of fear, I felt my lower belly quiver as thoughts of the intentions behind those dark eyes ran through my mind. I finally managed to blink, and when I glanced back, he turned, facing the rest of the men at his table. I sighed. Even his profile was beautiful. I licked my lips as I watched Eric's Adam's apple bob up and down after he took a swig of his beer. "You might want to clean up that drool you left on the bar," Stephanie whispered in my ear. I snapped her hip with the towel in my hand. "I'm not above replacing you." "You wouldn't fire me. Who else do you have to run this place while you're fantasizing about the hot firefighter?" She wiggled her eyebrows, and I tossed my head back, laughing. "Get back to work," I ordered. It was a Friday night, and Charlie's was hopping as usual. Being conveniently located between 2 fire stations meant that during evening shift changes, we were inundated with burly firefighters and the many female patrons who swooned after them. Coupled with the regular foot traffic we received at times, having 2 bartenders behind the bar wasn't always enough. I was grateful for it all. It's been 18 months since I bought Charlie's from its previous owner. I did some construction work on the place to give patrons more room, added a Bluetooth jukebox, offered a few craft beers that were so loved by us millennials, and business was booming. "What can I do for you, sir?" I asked the man who walked up to the bar. He ordered a rum and Coke. Once that order was done, I moved on to the next customer. It went on like this probably for close to an hour, with Stephanie and I so busy we barely got a good look at who we were serving before we were pouring another drink. "What can I get for you?" I asked the patron, barely making eye contact. The usual. A warm sensation moved through my belly at the sound of that voice. I locked eyes with Eric. 5 Coronas with lime?" I stumbled over my words, internally kicking myself for sounding so lame. A half smile formed on those lips, and he nodded, leaning down on the bar. I had to keep myself from watching his biceps bulge and strain against the T-shirt he wore. "Coming up." I infused my voice with the cheerfulness I gave all my customers. I felt his gaze on me as if he were touching me while I uncapped the bottles and inserted the sliced limes. "Thanks, sugar," I heard Corey's voice sound out from behind Eric. I lifted my eyes just as he put an arm around a now frowning Eric. "You know this guy should drink free tonight." Raising my eyebrows, I uncapped the final bottle. "Oh, yeah? And why is that?" "Harvard, you didn't tell Angela you're a hero?" Corey teased. Eric just gave him a shut-the-hell-up glare. But Corey kept on going. "Harvard here saved a little girl today. Climbed a 4-story building and brought her down." My eyes ballooned. "Seriously?" "Yeah." "No, he's messing around." Eric tossed a deadly look in Corey's direction. "Fuck no, he ain't." I heard Don's booming voice come up behind both men and insert himself at Eric's left side. "Corey's telling the truth. Rescue 4 had to save Rescue 2's asses again today." Don and Corey both guffawed at that. Eric gave a light chuckle, and I had to avert my gaze. Something like not looking directly into the sun, unless you want your retinas to burn up. That's what it was like staring at this man for too long, especially when he laughed. "Well, in that case, this round's on the house. Just don't tell Rescue 2 about it." Don and Corey grabbed all but one of the beers and headed back to their table. "I'm good at keeping secrets." Eric's gaze lingered on me for a heartbeat. Then he grabbed the beer I still held in my hand, his fingers grazing mine. My eyelids fluttered at the pulse of energy that ran through me at his touch. I looked up into Eric's handsome face to see his eyes widen ever so slightly. He felt it too. He inclined his head toward me before turning to head back to the rest of his squad. Picking up a stack of napkins, I began fanning myself with them. Jeesh. I grabbed a bottle of water from under the bar, hoping to douse my internal flames before I returned to serving my customers. "Talk about hot," Stephanie said behind me. I turned to see her biting her finger as she longingly gazed over at the men who just departed from the bar. "If you like that sort of thing," I shrugged. "Oh, please, don't tell me you wouldn't leave this bar right now to go home with one of them. Especially Harvard. I've seen the way you look at him, and how he looks at you." She wagged her finger at me, shaking her shoulders seductively, her blonde locks flowing around her shoulders. "Oh, please, the man barely talks. Even better, the strong, silent type. Get out of here. There's nothing there. Plus, I'm trying to see where things go with Marshall." "Boring." Stephanie rolled her eyes. "You've been on, 3 dates with Marshall? That's not enough time to see where things are going?" "Some of us like the slow build. Creating a solid foundation. Not everything's passion and hot sex." "If you say so." "There's a customer waiting on you." I pointed in the direction of a waving patron. Stephanie giggled before heading to the opposite end of the bar to serve customers. Again, I was lost in the rush of the crowd until I heard a warm, familiar voice. "Working hard, sis?" My smile grew tenfold. "Sean, I thought you had a date tonight." I leaned across the bar to hug my brother. "I did, but we ended early. She had to work a late shift at the hospital." "And you came to say hi to your little sis?" "That, and I needed to speak with the chumps from Rescue 4. I knew they'd be here tonight." I folded my arms over my chest, pouting. "You didn't think to come see me at all?" He chuckled. "Take it easy, Angela. Those chumps lost a bet, and I'm going to make them pay up." I leaned over to look at the table where the guys from Rescue 4 were laughing and talking. "Oh, yeah? Well, they were bragging about how they saved your guys' asses today." My brother's grin immediately dropped to a frown. "The day those cocky assholes have to save us is the day hell freezes over." My brother was pissed if the vein bulging out of the side of his neck was any indication. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. The rivalries between fire stations were something that mystified me, but I took pleasure in seeing my brother having his chain yanked. "You want a beer?" I said between laughs. "Nah, not yet. I need to handle something." And with that, he turned in the direction of the men of Rescue 4.
Eric. My head tilted backward as I took in the last pull of my beer. My eyes surveyed the room, watching the women and men mingling around, likely scoping who they'd take home that night. That thought had my eyes floating back to the bar at the woman tending to customers. Angela. I drank her in without making it obvious. I felt a tightening in my groin when her succulent lips parted on a full laugh. Her head fell back, showing off her asymmetrical cut. Short dark brown with a few purple highlights was pushed from her forehead. Her skin, the color of pecans, glowed under the lights of the bar. She stood about 5'5", but her presence was so much larger, with her bubbly and demonstrative personality. As the owner of the bar, everyone knew Angela, and it was her outgoing spirit that made this place what it was, and kept people coming back. Making a decision, I rose from my chair to head straight to the bar. Unfortunately, I was cut off when a large figure came between me and the bar. "Going somewhere?" I closed my eyes briefly and sighed before placing my empty bottle on the table. "What can we do for you, Sean?" I asked as the rest of the guys stood. Sean surveyed the 5 of us at the table, and a smirk I didn't like appeared. "It's not what you can do for me. It's what I'm going to do for you." Hell, cut this shit and tell us what we owe you," Don interjected. He wasn't a guy who liked beating around the bush, especially when it came to losing. Sean chuckled. "All right, gentlemen. Since you lost our little wager, we of Rescue 2 propose that you attend a spinning class at the gym on Oakland this Tuesday morning." My eyebrows spiked up. "Spinning?" I turned to look at Corey, Don, and the other two guys with us. They all wore the same skeptical expression.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?